while I was pregnant for all of us, but certainly while I'm pregnant, while he's ill and then dying and then being a new mom and then really going back to work. I mean, I was working the whole time, but like putting myself back into that primary focus and then deciding to leave my career and go back to school.
Hi, Andrea. I am super excited to have you on the Pursue Your Spark podcast, sharing a super important topic for our midlife listeners.
Thank you for having me, Heike. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Andrea, can you tell us about a time when you ignited your spark, when you made a bold move or chose a different path, even when it was a tough or not an easy one to choose?
Yes, I think one of the biggest ones in my life was when I was a single mom, widowed with a small child, and decided to leave my very well-established career in book publishing to pursue a career in nutrition. And it was a huge leap because I was a single family income at that time, had to put myself back through years and years of school, but pursued my spark, and that has certainly paid off.
Why did you choose that path? Because after I've just published my first book, so
Mhm.
I'm like, oh my God, this is so exciting. And she's was a publisher before. But what made you choose that path? It could have been anything else.
Yes. Well, it couldn't have been anything else because I always had a passion for nutrition. I worked in book publishing. I was a production director for 15 years. But when my late husband, Isamu, was diagnosed with a brain tumor when I was 7 weeks pregnant, we really started to see more of the gaps in the medical model. There were certainly brilliant things that medicine was doing for him, but we were recognizing that there was more we can do. So my passion, my light passion for nutrition became more of a purpose of something I could do to influence his life, something we could do together. And so that sparked my passion in really looking at nutrition and the purpose then of really being able to deliver that message forward. So it wasn't just picked out of the clouds. It had become kind of my religion at that point. He lived 2.5 years after his diagnosis. So we lived with this reality of dealing with his brain tumor treatments and then all the other lifestyle modifications we were making at home and in our lives.
That is incredible. It's just incredible in itself. And he got to see his child
Yes.
and be with you, which is wonderful.
Yes.
But how did you take care of yourself during that time? That's a very difficult time. You going to school, you're learning, you getting a new profession, you have a little one, and your husband is going to die, and you know that. How did you take care of yourself during that time?
Well, I'm going to pace it out. So I wasn't going back to school when he was ill. I was completely focused on him and our family. In fact, I had been starting to do more of my own writing at that time and publishing, and that just got publishing my own work as opposed to working in publishing. And that just got sidelined while we were focused on his treatment, his life, the new life I was growing and, then had in the world. So that time was not a time to focus on myself and go back to school. That was a time of really shifting to the primary focus in life, which was life. So the back to school time happened years after he died, really recognizing this was my passion. All of that time required a huge attention to myself. So while I was pregnant for all of us, but certainly while I'm pregnant, while he's ill and then dying and then being a new mom and then really going back to work. I mean, I was working the whole time, but like putting myself back into that primary focus and then deciding to leave my career and go back to school took a tremendous amount of attention to my health and well-being, my sleep, my exercise, my movement, my mental health, my nutrition, all of those things to ensure that I was supporting myself along these very difficult transitions in life.
Mm-hmm. If I'm correct, you also were diagnosed with Hashimoto's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can you tell our audience what that is?
Yes. So Hashimoto's is not so uncommon. So I'm sure more and more people are like, oh, me too. It's autoimmune hypothyroidism. So it's underactive thyroid that's the result of the immune system, autoimmune, attacking the tissues in my own thyroid. So any autoimmune condition is where our immune system kind of gets overreactive and starts to attack our own cells or tissues in our body. And the name of the condition is the area of the body that's getting attacked. So Hashimoto's is an autoimmune hypothyroidism. And I think if I go back before my late husband was even ill, the thing that drove me to really explore nutrition was trying to manage some of my own symptoms that in retrospect I can see as the precursors of my own thyroid disorder, but I didn't know it then. So I was already dabbling in nutrition at the point when he got ill, and then I started reading and presenting him. There wasn't a lot of information. This is 2000. This is the year of 2000. The internet was not what it is today. There were few books on nutrition. I was reading Andrew Weil and Michael Lerner. Like there just wasn't a lot. So when I would find a piece of research, I would present it to him. It was ultimately his decision if we were going to make changes to our life. But going back, I think I was already primed to be thinking about what to do because I was trying to quote unquote control some of my own symptoms that were starting to emerge.
Yeah, you've started or got certified, or I don't know how to even say that, in narrative medicine. What the heck is that, Andrea?
Yes. Yeah. So, after all this, I just want to catch us up to speed. I put myself back through many years of school. My undergraduate degree was in art and design. So I had to do all the sciences, put myself back through many, many years of school, became a functional medicine nutritionist, built a practice, built a school. I train thousands of practitioners from around the globe. But what I found, to answer your question, is that we are very fixated as a culture on what's going on in our body and what to do about it. So early in my career in functional medicine nutrition, I noticed people were very quick fix protocol focused. What do I do? What am I supposed to do? What's my diet? How much should I drink? Should I put electrolytes in my drink? What do I do? We then became, as a culture, as more information was available to us, very fixated on what was going on in our body. Is it my mitochondria, my telomeres, if we're talking about longevity? And what I realized in all my teaching and my studies is that we were missing a really important piece of the puzzle. So on the functional nutrition matrix that I teach into, there's what I call the story, the soup, and the skill. The skill is the what do I do about it? What do I drink? What do I eat? What should I sleep? What's my environment? The soup is what's going on inside of our body. And we know now everything's connected. The gut's connected to the brain. The gut's connected to detoxification, which supports our hormone balance. That's the soup. We're not a stew. We're not ologies. We are a big soup. But the piece that was missing, that I found missing, was the story, and recognizing that our histories impact that physiological terrain, that soup. So if we think of the functional nutrition matrix with the soup in the middle, it is influenced by, yes, all the things we do, but also by who we are. So I started looking for more that would help me understand the individual who is experiencing the things inside their body. That led me to the practice of narrative medicine. I studied and got certified at Columbia University as a practitioner of narrative medicine. And narrative medicine is really taking time to deeply listen and understand the human behind the symptoms. We are not our signs, symptoms, or diagnoses. We are people with signs, symptoms, and diagnoses. And this is one of the gaps I saw early on with my husband and his diagnosis. So narrative medicine is often engaging with humanities in some way, whether it's poetry or art or movies or something in the humanities that reveals the human experience, and allowing ourselves to be with that so that we can better be with our patients' stories, and as patients so we can better be with our own stories. And by that, Heike, I mean not just the big T traumas, but the little threads of what moves me. Where do I feel belonging and not belonging? And how do I recognize those things, those me parts of me, as part of my healing journey, as much as the what do I do about it?
You know, so many people that are listening to the show, and I have an expert like you on the show, they're like, oh, give me the things I need to do. What should I take? How much should I sleep? What supplements should I do? Or what is the quick fix that I can just do right now based on the episode that she's sharing? And I always love like a guest like you is like, this is not the story for you to just get things done quickly, take that pill, be done, or have the magic potion. And I truly believe in what you have said too is when I look at it from my perspective as a Pilates coach, when I train with people, whether it's virtual or in my studio here in Maryland, people come and they come to you with a I don't know with a fabric, and
Mhm.
they go and they, oh, I'm great, I'm feeling awesome, life is good. And then as you start talking to them, you observe them, you see them breathing, you see them reacting to you, you know there's something else going on. And the more they trust us, the more these layers reveal themselves. And just like you in your practice, this is how I coach. They may
Yes.
come in and looking for a kick butt Pilates workout. And in the end, we're stretching, we're
Yes.
breathing, we are talking about what's actually on their minds to help them heal and feel
Yes.
better, which has nothing to do with what they thought initially
Correct.
they came to the class for, or the course, whatever it may be. And so, from your perspective, what do you believe, Andrea, women in midlife most need to hear, feel, or understand about their health that they're just not getting from traditional care and help themselves?
Yeah, I mean, so many things. There's so many things that are really not looking at midlife and beyond through a lens that's fully functional and comprehensive. But I think I'm going to introduce three P's that I think are really important here. So, a lot of the midlife and longevity journey, and I've been doing a real deep dive into longevity research and all the books that are out there on longevity, is very focused on preservation. And I think preservation is important in terms of wanting to preserve our health. And that is about prevention. We need to prevent the big issues that we are more susceptible to as we age: neurodegeneration, heart disease, cancer, metabolic issues like diabetes. Those are the things that we become more susceptible to as we age because of entropy, because the body has been through more. But when we're focused on preservation versus prevention, we're looking to be who we were and to look like who we were, as opposed to recognizing that prevention goes with us as we go forward. And the third P that I want to introduce there, and I have some other P models too, but I was thinking about these, is purpose. Like
Yes.
when we are living in our purpose, and like you talk about, pursuing your spark and really knowing what sparks you, that actually has a huge impact on prevention physiologically. I can tell you physiologically, purpose, belonging, being moved, those have a big impact on our bodies and our body function, that blood sugar balance, that inflammation. They have an impact there when we're focused on all the things being sold to us to go backwards. We are not allowing ourselves to spiral forward. We're spiraling back, and we're going to continually keep seeking, which keeps us in a sympathetic dominant fight or flight mode. And we're seeking something that we already lived, and we deserve to move forward, for beauty and vitality and purpose to be something new at 60 instead of wishing for 40. And, both, we can go both ways in that equation.
Yes, absolutely. You know, when I look at my clients, and specifically my clients that I see in person, not so much the people that are in my courses, because the people in my courses are in their 50s, mostly women. But in my studio, it's both men and women. And my oldest client is 99.
Love it.
And I mean, yes, we're not doing 100% Pilates, but it doesn't really matter. His wife says, well, he's losing his mind. Well, he's 99, so he is not remembering anything short term. He remembers everything from way back when, but
Mm,
he's living a purposeful life for what he
yes.
remembers. He moves, and every week he leaves, and he has two hiking poles, and he waves with his hiking poles, and he says, "Okay, next Tuesday." He seems to remember that from all the things.
Mm,
Next Tuesday,
mm,
have a good day.
mm,
Next Tuesday. And then he comes to work with wherever the mind and body is
mm-hmm.
that day. But this is such an example of longevity.
Yes.
This man has no poor health markers. He has great
Yes.
blood pressure. He has a great heart. Everything's well, and he's not doing anything extraordinary. He's barely any medication, like 2 or 3 pills that he really needs, but that's it.
Mm,
And they're not looking for this quick fix, this
right.
they're living well, they're telling me
Yes.
what they're eating. And never mind, Andrea, his wife, who's 94, drives him to the studio.
Oh,
The two of them are just amazing.
amazing. I'm so moved. I hope everybody feels the like tingles and goosebumps. Like we want to live forward. It's not going to be what it was. And we have to engage the body with where it's going. We can still be focused on health and prevention. There's a way
Absolutely.
to do both, but what we're being sold today is some hypothesis and promise of preservation, which doesn't exist in the way it's being sold to us.
Yeah, I want to dive into the question a little bit more because I have this really long question for you.
Yeah,
But I was
yeah.
like, oh my God, I can talk to Andrea about this. So there's so much noise about the trackers, the diets, the supplements, the sleep hacks. But you've warned that chasing quick fixes can actually delay real healing. How can women recognize when they're bypassing their deeper needs? And what does a more grounded path forward look like?
Yes, such a good question. And this is where I'm going to borrow from the practices of narrative medicine, which are really about deep listening, radical listening, listening to what are we trying to achieve? What do I want out of that diet tracker? What am I aiming for? And then really either asking yourself or if you're working with somebody, will this give me that? So it's really just helping ourselves understand what we're aiming for. So if I look at a diet like intermittent fasting is sold to us as the be all end all for longevity, or a ketogenic diet for weight loss, which we might struggle with more as we age, those are only beneficial in very specific circumstances. And sometimes when we adopt these ways of eating that aren't right for our bodies in this season of life, or whatever that means, age wise, or like right now, stress wise, whatever it is we're going through, they can actually do more harm than good. What I'm seeing with a lot of the trackers, and I'm wearing my Aura ring, but what I'm seeing with a lot of the trackers is that they're inappropriately used,
Mhm.
and people are self-diagnosing based on something they see and then overemphasizing with that self-diagnosis. So what's the information we're getting, and how do we recognize that it's in a context of everything else going on? So as non-practitioners, as patients, and I'll put myself in there even though I'm a practitioner, we are all patients. We
Patience.
have to recognize, what am I trying to achieve by taking on this new thing, and will it actually help me there? Otherwise, once again, we get stuck in this sympathetic dominant fight or flight state, which is the antithesis of the rest and the digest that we ultimately need for true healing. And you said earlier, Heike, that people want to know, like, what's the thing? I'm going to tell you my non-negotiable trifecta is sleep, poop, and blood sugar balance. So if you're not pooping, that's what I want you to work with. I'm not pooping. This is when it changed. This is what I notice. Like, focus on something very specific as opposed to the big, broad promises that rarely, I'm not going to say never because there is the 20%, but rarely pay off in the way that they're promising, because the human body is beautifully complicated and complex.
Yeah, that's so very true, because everybody wants to fix everything all at once. They tackle all at once, and going back to our conversation, they're not really listening to
Correct.
themselves. And I
Correct.
think it's also a problem of our industry that everybody is so inundated with so much
Yes.
information, and that they don't know what to do and where to go. Should I do this? Should I not? But I read, and my friend said, oh, my neighbor is.
Yep.
And they're really not sure where to go. And
Right.
instead of asking, well, it's also hard to find somebody that you feel is
Correct.
qualified and you can
Yes.
trust.
Yeah. And then what I would say to that is just slow it down. Just do what you know works for you. One of the principles that I invite people to think about, and I have 3 dietary principles, and I'm happy to share them all. But one of them is just know your yes, no, maybe list. Yes, this feels good when I eat this. No, whenever I eat too much fat or too much meat or drink coffee in the morning, whatever yours is, and know your maybe list. Yes, no, maybe. That's a good place to start, just old school tracking. Then when you show up with somebody that you can have a conversation with, no matter what their scope is, you have some starting points for conversation around what you know works for you versus what were told what that should work for you. And one of the things I just want to point out is, in my career in functional medicine nutrition, so 20 years now, I've watched us go through every cycle: high fat, low fat, high protein, wait a minute protein, amino acids, no amino. Like, I've watched it all. And what I really think is fascinating is that we live in an age where more and more people are sick and not getting better at younger ages, and yet more and more information is available to us. So if it was just information, if it was just the tracker, just the supplement, just the diet, just that new and fancy test, we wouldn't be seeing this increase in the chronic health epidemic that we're seeing, that includes midlife issues that aren't being addressed. And by the way, I'm sorry for all the people who are on bioidentical hormones, and I like them, but they're not the be all end all fix. And we're being sold this idea or this lie that if we just go on bioidenticals, again, we're in a preservation mode, and that's a different way of bringing hormones into your body than what your body used to do. It's going to feel different. It's going to look different for each and every one of us. Again, the body is wildly complex and complicated. And if we don't know, just slow down and figure out, what do I know works for me and how do I anchor there instead of chasing?
I love the idea of going back to basics, because that's how I teach in my practice. And I do teach intermittent fasting, but I also teach that it's not for everybody and not for
Correct.
everything. Like,
Yes.
women ask me, will I lose weight? I don't know. I don't know
Correct.
you. I don't know your body.
Yes.
I started intermittent fasting when I was diagnosed with microscopic colitis. And I still have colitis. And fast forward, I went through exactly what you said. What can
Yes.
I digest? What can I
Yes.
not? What are my
Yes.
symptoms after I eat? How do I feel? How do I poop?
Yes.
Do I have diarrhea, especially after I eat brie? But I
Yes.
knew all of this. So when I went to the doctor, they looked at me and said, oh, you have all of this? And I was like, yeah. So now what is your suggestion? What can you do for me as a gastroenterologist? But they were blown away that I had written
Correct.
down all these things over time, not just a
Yes.
day or two a week, but
Know
had data
thyself. Yeah, you knew yourself. And like you, I also intermittent fast. I wouldn't even call it that, but definitely like don't eat in a certain window of
as a
time.
definition. Yes.
Yeah, but if and so when I say these things, I also just want to state that I'm not against them, like the bioidentical hormone therapy. It's just very individualized.
Individual.
And if somebody has blood sugar issues or a lot of stress, like getting to the place where something like intermittent fasting works for them is going to take time. And that's why we have to just be wary of the one size fits all. But like
Mm.
you, I do better now in my life with a longer window of not eating, which allows my body to go into the rest and digest state. So it's really like the yes and. All of these theories have a reason that they've
Yeah.
been explored. Whether they're right for you and right for you in this moment is where we need to bring in the individual information.
Absolutely. So, Andrea, you often talk about third and fourth acts in life. I haven't gotten to that part yet, although I'm 64, but can you share what's stepping into your own next act look like and how it reshaped your sense identity or purpose? Because we talked a little bit about the purpose at the beginning of this interview.
Yes, yeah. So I started to really think about these different acts as I released my son into the world in a bigger way. So I started to recognize, there's the period of life, and I'm going to use children. I know not all of us have them, but like as these seasons that we might mark. So there's the time in our life before we are starting families or at the family age. Then we have people that are and responsibilities that are in our household. I thought of the third act when my son left for college, where he's still in the bubble of another institution and it's still held, and I'm still parenting even though he's out of the house. So I'm an empty nester, but we're still like holding hands at an institutional level, and there's another place that expects him to show up every time. When he moved to Asia and then came back and is figuring out his own life, he's 24 now, I realized that there was a whole role that I had really been holding on to, that role of a parent that was no longer required of me in the same way, that my role was shifting. It's not that I'm not a parent, but he didn't need me anymore. He was choosing me, but he didn't need me anymore. And that recognition for myself of a role is leaving me here. And for me, in my situation, it was just he and I, and his raising him was a commitment I made to his father, who is no longer here. So I felt like, oh, there's an end of a chapter here. And the loss of that role was very challenging for me to come to terms with. And meanwhile, I was watching my friends in their 60s, turned 60, who may have worked in more creative corporate jobs no longer be desirable hires anymore.
Mhm.
And I was starting to think about this shift in role, and that for us in our generation, we've held a lot of roles. All of us as women have held a lot of roles different than generations before us who may have paved the way for us. But those roles start to fall away or not be so identifying. And that made me think, wait a minute, I'm not done. I'm not done, but what is this next act? And who am I in this next act when these roles, even if some of them aren't changing, are kind of by societal norms being changed for me. And so for me, the fourth act was really a time to say, how do I re identify myself? What parts of me do I want to bring back online? And I don't mean I mean, online within me, like who was I as a girl, as a younger woman? What
Mhm.
parts of myself do I want to reignite as I kind of spiral around this next iteration of self and pick up pieces of myself that maybe now have more time to come back out while I'm kind of reinventing, but also reflecting. So that's what I think of as the fourth act. We're not done. We are not
We're
done at 60.
Oh, God, no. I mean, I just wrote my very first book. It's currently in the pre-order phase, but I would never have thought that I would ever write a book. And I started, and it's like, okay, why not? Why not
Yes.
me? And also in my book, I talk about what you just talked about. It's like we're not done, but we
Yes.
want to feel like ourselves, whatever
Yes.
that new self is. And what is that new fourth act look like for us? How
Yes.
do we identify ourselves and find our niche and find our footing in that new little niche that we carved out for ourselves?
Yes, or might need to carve out a new. I mean, what I'm watching with friends is that they might be at a next chapter where work looks different, where contribution looks different, where purpose looks different. And like you, even though I come from publishing, I have a book deal, but my book isn't out yet. I'm about this month, I'll turn 59. It probably won't be until I'm 60 that it comes out. And so just really being able to recognize we're not done and there are parts of us that we can go back and pick up and there's a new future moving forward. And I don't know if you're familiar with Sharon Blackie's book Haggitude, but I'm
Yes.
leading a longevity book club for women right now, and we're in the reading of Haggitude, and I love Sharon Blackie's use of the visual of a spiral. It's not preservation in that we're returning to an old self. We're going on and picking up parts of ourselves from a new perspective. And I think that's just a really beautiful visual.
I agree. I agree. So you wrote optimization is seductive, but if the system isn't stable, is not that now the time to fine tune? Is it time to rebuild for women who's doing all the right things, but still feels that something is not really working? What does it actually mean to rebuild and not fall into this seduction?
Yeah, this really links beautifully to what we've been talking about with the quick fix. And the short way I like to say that is we can't use the tools of optimization for stabilization. So as I deep dive into the science and technology of longevity, a lot of it is about optimization. If we think about the realm of biohacking, this again comes back to the tests and the trackers and the blood sugar monitors and all the things. They can be used if we are hacking or optimizing at the level of all is good, and I just want to perfect it a little bit. I just want to work on this a little bit. How can I improve my performance time, the weight I'm lifting? Those are optimization opportunities. A lot of times, what I see in the populations that I'm serving are people with chronic health challenges,
Mhm.
and we still need the opportunity to stabilize. We're not at a stage of optimizing, or we can optimize within the places we're stabilizing, right? But if the immune system isn't stable, if the digestive system isn't stable, if our sleep isn't regular and stable, we are then trying for something that's about a fine tune when the radio station, because we can say that because we had radio stations, isn't even coming in. It's not just about making the crackle go away. We got to get the radio station to come in. So this really brings us back to functional medicine nutrition, where we are making sure the systems, that soup that I mentioned, all the internal physiology is working and working in concert to the best of its ability, given all that you are working with at this moment. And we might need to think about that in a slow and progressive way versus that quick fix to handle it
And all at once, too.
all at once. Yeah. Which becomes a diet or something we can't sustain. And then we're off that and on to the next thing. And this is about life and lifestyle, and also life and lifestyle and living. Like the story you told about your 99-year-old client and his 94-year-old wife, there's also joy and experience in their lives. And we don't want to forego that in favor of some narrow road of restriction that we think we're supposed to be walking in order to preserve
Yeah.
ourselves.
Absolutely. So we always ask at the closing, what's one way a woman listening to today's episode can pursue her spark, whether it's being strategic, purposeful, authentic, resilient, or knowledgeable? What would you offer somebody today?
Yes, I'm going to go back to who you were as a child and just remembering the things that made you feel most joyful and in your flow when you were a little person, because there's some piece of that story that can come back into your world and be a part of the story of who you are still becoming. But it's that flow state that is our true essence that has a message for us. So, as an example for myself, I danced as a little girl. I danced some as an adult too, but didn't do it for many years. And a year ago, I was like, I need to find a dance class. And now I'm so happy. 4 days a week, I'm going to a dance class, and I would do more if I could, but it allows me to come into a part of myself that I've forgotten in the busyness of life in the second and third chapters that I get to restore in that fourth chapter. So go back and see if there are messages in that little person.
Oh, I know. I want to be an actress.
Oh, there you go.
Well, I think it's probably going to look more like public speaking, but
There you go. And even with your clients, like you're on, right?
there you go. Andrea, thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing all about functional medicine, nutrition, and really a clear look on what's really going on with us in midlife. And
Thank you.
How can people reach you?
Yeah, thanks for asking. You can always find me at Andrea Nakayama on all the platforms. So andreanakayama.com, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, and that'll lead you back to my work at the Functional Nutrition Alliance as well.
Super. Thank you.